I am going to pull up a campaign, and I'm also going to pull up a screen share. So here we are. So let me share my screen here. So first I want to talk about GTIN. Now I have two windows open. I have to log into Google Merchant Center in incognito, otherwise it signs me out for my main account here. So you don't have to log into Merchant Center with an incognito window. It just helps me because if you have a different login, it forces you to log out of everything else. So quick pro tip there: if you ever need to log into GMC Google Merchant Center with a different account, use incognito, and it'll keep you logged in on your main account. Their performance has been good. This is February, March, April, and May. They had a credit card issue here, and so it kind of stopped, and now it's getting ramped back up. But throughout this entire time, we've had a 300% return on ad spend, and it's been performing pretty well. So we spent 25, made 75. They need 180% return on ad spend to break even, but they're focusing on scale. So they want to spend the most amount of money they possibly can. We started with about, I think, $100 a day back in January, and now we're up to $350. So we're scaling while keeping above that return on ad spend goal. Now they have in this account their product list that they have, and this is just a random product list. They have everything that you can imagine, like a weighted eye mask, a coffee alarm clock, an N95 mask, just a whole bunch of random stuff. But they have 786 SKUs, and you can see that most of the products, because we've been running without return on ad spend goal, has been selling. So it's not like the simple only 5 items have been selling. But what's important to know about this is their Google Merchant Center account has 16 products with invalid value GTIN. And GTIN here, this is when Google says use a globally valid UPC. So Google Merchant Center has identified that there's GTINs that are not valid. One of the reasons why this company has an invalid GTIN is because they're getting it right from the manufacturer. And so it's up to the manufacturer to provide a valid GTIN. As it pertains to us here, for all the small business owners here, if you are using drop shipping, or if you're using another company's products and you're reselling them, the GTIN here, this is where it's absolutely needed. You will not have these 16 items here run at all. The GTINs need to be globally recognized because Google is going to check, and Google is going to identify if a GTIN is valid or not. And if it's invalid, it's simply not going to run. Now, this isn't the only GTIN issue that you might run into in Google Merchant Center. You might see, I don't have it pulled up here because we don't have another one, but you'll see something like this where it's a triangle, like a warning. And this warning will say missing GTIN. That is when it's okay to run. Unsupported value or restricted GTIN. So this one says, hey, there's 2,000 products here that have a unsupported, basically it's a not valid GTIN, but it's okay. We're going to allow it to run. And it's up to Google's discretion on when something says, no, this is absolutely not going to work. And these products are just not going to run at all, and they're disapproved. There's other times where they say that it's an unsupported value, basically saying, hey, this GTIN doesn't exist, but it's okay. We'll allow it to run anyway because we can't find a valid GTIN that does exist. And so you see that there's 2,020 products here, but there's 7,400 items that are approved and only 73 disapproved. And the 73 disapproved one is because of a violation of a shopping ads policy. Now this we'll get into here in a moment, but this is outside of GTIN. We're discussing GTIN right now. So you'll see sometimes that there's 2,000 products that have an unsupported GTIN, but they're still approved. And then we say, okay, well, what's the how is that affecting the performance? Well, if we look over at the Comfort One shoes here, this campaign here since February, our smart shopping campaigns are delivering us 450 and 315 ROAS. So just because there's GTINs that are unsupported doesn't mean that they're not going to perform well. And I think that this was a big issue when we discussed it previously, where if you don't have a GTIN, you can't perform at scale, and that's incorrect. You can, and you can do fairly well. This one we spent, I don't know, was that essentially $30,000 since February. So February, March, and April, 30,000, like essentially 10 grand per month in these two campaigns with invalid GTINs, and still getting a combined total of, I would say, something like 400% return on ad spend. So GTINs don't spend a lot of time harping on the GTINs. It's only really effective at a large scale. Where GTINs become effective at scale is because if you have, and I'll kill my camera here so I can kind of speak to everyone, Google's going to look at cataloging an item. So if my sunglasses here don't have a GTIN, Google has to look at what is the product's name, description, and that's fairly it. And a couple other supportive values like color and size and weight and that kind of stuff. Now, if I take my sunglasses here and I change my title and my description, Google thinks it's brand new, even if the URL is the same. Google will think this is a brand new product. Where that becomes dangerous is we're talking about feed optimizations. When you're using a tool like Data Feed Watch and you said, yeah, I'd like to change my titles and I'd like to change my descriptions around to see if I can do a better performance. And all of a sudden, oh no, my performance dropped. Why? Well, it's because Google couldn't catalog this item with a barcode, so it thinks it's a new product. That's where this becomes dangerous, especially at scale. When you start to scale products, you want to open it up to new audiences. If you've maxed out your ad spend and you say, well, I think I can get more people if I call this not only men's sunglasses, but men's black sunglasses, there might be an additional 200,000 people this month that you can get in front of. But you went in front of those 200,000 people with a brand new product. And that's where it can affect scale, where you spend more and you're doing feed optimizations, you're seeing lower performance, especially within the first 2 to 3 weeks. So what Google needs is a barcode. If this is item 1, 2, 3, 4, and Google says, okay, that's item 1, 2, 3, 4. I know how item 1, 2, 3, 4 performs. You can call item 1, 2, 3, 4 something else, completely different. New title, new descriptions, new images. But Google's like, yeah, it's okay. I know the audience that's interacting with item 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where Google interprets what your product is. It's a catalog. It's a machine. So since the machine only has a specific set of variables, and if all of those variables change, like title and description and images, is now a brand new product. So you can scale fairly well without GTIN. If you start to change the product's attributes and you scale without GTIN, that's where you run into trouble. And that's where a lot of companies that I've seen that they said, yeah, we've started to make feed optimization, we started to have more money, but it's just not performing very well. And I don't know why. And they call us and they ask us to help out. And that's because GTIN is a way for a computer to say, I really don't care whatever you want to call this thing. I have a barcode on it, and I'm using that barcode to attach it to audiences. Because it's a self-learning algorithm, it's going to say this barcode does well with men between the ages of 25 and 37 in Southwest United States that have been looking at this and have been interacting with that. And usually they start to click on their ads first on the search with display select network. The longer that goes on, the more valuable it becomes to you, because that's more static and that's more scalable and that has more data. Anytime you change that without GTIN, you basically take 3 months worth of optimizations and you throw it out the window. And then you try to add more ad spend to it, and then it starts to go sideways. So I want to see if this is a good explanation as to how and when GTIN is effective. You can scale without GTIN, but you run the risk of optimizing your feed without it. You can scale with GTIN much more effectively, because now you're not in a fear of optimizing your feed but losing data. So as you scale with GTIN, you can then make feed optimizations at larger scale safer, because Google understands what that product is. It's already cataloged it as item 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever obviously the UPC code is. It's not going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like 16-digit code. But I think this is important for us to discuss, because this is where I know a lot of people are saying, like, well, I don't have a barcode. Do I need one now? The only time I would say that if you said, hey, I don't have a barcode or I don't have a GTIN, do I need one, is right here, is if you are not, if you're having this issue here. If it says, hey, it's not going to run, it's completely, it's not a warning, it's disapproved. The red exclamation icon says it's not going to run, period. So nothing you're going to do is going to get this product up and running. The triangle is a warning. The warning, you can have 30 grand in ad spend and you can have a 400% ROAS with a warning. And the warning is basically saying is, hey, in the future, if anything starts to change, I'm not going to be able to catalog that item. Now, Google doesn't explain that very well because usually they give you a little small bubble and just says, hey, this is going to be bad. But it's just not going to tell you why. But I'm telling you the why. If you have a warning, try to grab a GTIN off a purchase a quality from a quality company, purchase a GTIN. And then once you place that GTIN in on that product, that's now day one of that GTIN. If you've been running for 3 months and you place a GTIN on that product, that's day one for that GTIN. So essentially, if you start to make changes on day 2 to your item's descriptions or title, you really only have 1 day of catalog performance with Google. On day 90, after a GTIN has been instilled and after it has conversion values attributed to that GTIN, that's when it's safe to start making feed optimizations. We have a lot of clients that will take on, we charge a startup fee for e-commerce clients if you were to hire us. And one of the reasons why we charge an e-commerce fee is because we're going to be making feed optimizations, but we don't necessarily make it on day 1 because there's nothing to measure the performance against. So usually by day 60, day 90, if there is GTINs, we will start to make feed optimizations, adding nouns to the titles, adding and possibly adding supplemental content to the descriptions. But you don't want to do it too soon. You want to test, measure the efficacy of that product, make feed optimizations and test against that and make sure that there's performance improvements there. But only when there's GTINs. If you don't have GTINs, that's when that feed optimization becomes that much more risky. I want to pause here and have anybody unmute or anything like that, make any sort of comments, questions, or anything, just so we can understand exactly how GTINs are important or not.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah.
So I had a question. So when say you have a product running for like, let's say 3 months, and then you decide to add GTIN, is that gonna influence and restart the whole optimization process, or will it continue from there?
It will continue from there. So if you have 3 months worth of product data and you add GTIN, that's great. But what you don't want to do is add GTIN on day 90 and then day 91 start changing the title and descriptions. That's where it gets risky.
So you want to wait it out after that. When you added that GTIN, you want to wait out like another 60 days and see what you get during that duration of time before you make any changes to your description and products. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's where Google is. That's the point where Google has cataloged that item with their, I don't know, algorithm, I guess I would say. It's cataloged that product with that algorithm. And then after that, it says, okay, I know how this product is performing. And the longer you give it, the better it will perform when you start to make your descriptions and title updates. So if you wait 30 days, that's good. Wait 6 days, better. Wait a year, that's even better. I'm not saying you have to wait a year, but the longer it goes, the better it is.
Okay, that makes sense.
Question from Don: if retailer X and if retailer X and a manufacturer are both running shopping campaigns on the same product with the same GTIN, will each shopping campaign learn from the success of the other since they're both using the same GTIN?
Yeah, and that's what's funny is Google's counting on that. When you do have a, I'm just gonna poke around here just a couple more times.
That's gotta just piss everybody off. You're paying to help other people repping the same product. You're like, equipping Google to work against you with a larger advertiser who's willing to spend more money.
Yes, I found it. And this is it right here. This is that exact scenario at play. Okay, this one right here, limited performance due to missing value GTIN. This one here is saying limited performance, because if you can tell me what that barcode is, I can springboard this product into better performance because I have now a history of that GTIN, the people who go to it, the look, smell, feel, whatever it is, of all of the audiences and their activities and their seasonality. And the longer that product has been in the ecosystem, which is Google, the better it can just launch. So it also even pulls in Amazon performance. When you have products that sell well on Amazon and you put those into Google and you give it the same GTIN, obviously, that it has on Amazon, if Amazon obviously since it's inside of a browser and Google is a Chrome and Chrome browser sees how that performance is working because people are driving ads to it, it starts to gain better performance almost instantaneously. So that's what's interesting. When you see this one here, it says, hey, if you tell me what the barcode is, I can deliver historical values to your product and have a better understanding on where to find that audience here. And so that's just saying like, hey, add your products globally valid GTIN. And that's because it has limited performance. So you're exactly right. Now, the problem is competitor advertisers who sell the same exact product as you, they're going to benefit off your hard work. But again, you'll benefit off of someone else's hard work. So it's basically just a big shared ecosystem. And it's quote unquote fair for Google to do that because the person who owns that product made the decision to say, yeah, I allow everyone else to market this product as well. I mean, unless you're physically like stealing the product and the manufacturer is going to sue you, then you're going to be in trouble anyway. But yeah, it's just sharing that historical performance inside the Google Ads ecosystem.
Question from Dylan: does adding a feed rule for GTIN qualify as okay, or does it need to be in Google channel Shopify settings?
Feed rule is fine. It's I think 6 to 1, half dozen to the other. Essentially, basically, if you're saying like if product equals ID this, add the GTIN, that's gonna be fine. It's only needs to be in the feed before it makes it to Google Ads. So feed rule is fine. I've never done a feed rule for GTIN. It's always been at the product or at the CMS level, just because we're an agency. So I ask the client, hey, can you add that to the product? And then they go through and say, yeah, I've added it to all the products. And then we refresh through GMC and then boom, it's up. I don't foresee an issue though with feed rule because essentially it's the same step just it's the same process just at a different step, but it's still prior to getting to Google Ads.
Can we just talk about how bad Dylan's making me feel about myself right now?
I know. It's just
Kudos and
I'm out of breath watching you because I'm fat and I'm losing weight via osmosis, which is awesome. So
Mike says, for new products, would you suggest just getting GTINs from the start?
Yeah. So for new products, I would, because there's never going to be a benefit of running it first before getting a GTIN, unless you say, hey, I have 6,000, and I've had this happen many times. You have a new dropshipper's like, yeah, I got 7,000 SKUs at my discretion that I can just pick from. And maybe 4,000 of them don't have GTINs because it's an American dropshipper that's just making custom furniture, whatever. I have no idea what it is. I'm just making up a scenario. And then my opinion would be, before you go and buy GTINs because the manufacturer didn't have them, test them first for possibly a few weeks, and then find your winners, and they'll stick out very quickly and very simply. And then buy GTINs for those winners, and then move forward, but do it as soon as you can. Now, if you have your own products, yeah, absolutely, buy GTINs immediately. There's no reason to not start with a GTIN if you have the option to, because all that's going to do is just put a lag later on to your feed optimizations. So starting with GTINs immediately would be a good idea. Kasim?
Question about intellectual property ownership. If you are sourcing a product from a manufacturer, that product does not come with a GTIN, which we've seen happen often, especially from smaller manufacturers. Mm-hmm. You go and purchase the GTIN for that product. Do you own that GTIN, or does that retroactively apply to everybody else that purchases that product from the manufacturer?
That's a good question. I don't really know, and there's probably some legalese there that would be good to find out. Like if you're reselling another manufacturer's product, if you buy a GTIN, does now that manufacturer own the GTIN, or do you? Right. I would say that if you have a GTIN and you have a global tag identification number, and that's something that is on your product, previous or current advertisers would probably either get a limited performance or possibly just the removal of that item.
Dude, so that's actually a way for drop shippers to go carve out space for themselves. If you have a manufacturer that's not providing GTIN and you're the very first one to apply a GTIN for that product, you in a sense own the algorithmic attribution of that product.
Potentially, yeah. Now, I wouldn't recommend it in case all of a sudden, get a demand letter from the manufacturer one day. So I don't know.
This reminds me of the way we play the affiliate game, though. I feel like you could, send this across their desk and say, hey, I'm going to buy a GTIN code. I just want to make sure that's comfortable with you and that I own it. And if they don't know what you're talking about, you sort of won there.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
integrous. I mean, you're doing the right thing.
That's true. And that's I would hate for everyone to say like, yeah, I bought it and I got sued. So,
Yeah.
consult an
Don't
attorney.
sue us.
Yeah.
Talk to an attorney.
Talk to an attorney if you're questioned, if it's questionable. But for specifically inside of Google Ads, if there isn't a GTIN, I would buy one because they're like, I think $1.50. But yeah, it's something that you absolutely should start with if and when possible.
Someone's asking how to get the GTINs from existing products, and I imagine that only comes from the manufacturer, right?
Yeah. So it only if there's an existing GTIN, you need to contact the manufacturer and ask what the GTIN or NPN. It's been called NPN as well. So it just depends on where the product's being manufactured.
And there's a entirely different code for all of Europe. Do you remember what that was?
No, not off the top of my head.
Yeah. So if you're marketing European products, just know that it's the same paradigm, but different nomenclature.
Yeah, it's like a prefix or something. But essentially barcode should be universal though. But if you just ask the manufacturer for the barcode number, that's going to be your GTIN or NPN or whatever it may be. It has to come from the manufacturer. Well, not has to. The manufacturer should be the one that creates that. And if they do not have it, and there is a barcode out there that someone else has, or might be in that same position that we just discussed, where someone else bought the barcode because the manufacturer didn't have it, and now your campaign performance is limited. If you do run into an issue where you have a GTIN that is invalid, and the manufacturer says we've never had a GTIN for this product, you might be in an area where you're just not going to be able to find it. I know that there's a universal that you can kind of look it up, but again, it depends on what the product's called and what the description is. It's not like a set number, like, oh yeah, I just need to look up that one code. That GTIN is the code. So if there is one that we can't find it, you might not even just be able to run that product. That's happened a few times to us before.
I think that's immensely valuable for anybody that's looking to represent other people's products. To know on the front end, this is an expectation to manage. Do you have GTINs in place? If not, can we produce them? If so, do we own them, etc.? Jared has a really good question that's come up in the past. How does GTIN apply to personalized items like a t-shirt or mug that can be personalized with names and pictures, etc.?
I have a great example. So we have this one company. They sell baseball and baseball items. There's one smart shopping campaign called the Custom Gloves campaign. And let's do last 30 days. There we go. So custom glove smart shopping, we're spending $66 a day on it. And this custom glove has a 377% return on ad spend. And what's interesting, and we've spent $1,100 on this one campaign, made $4,400. So it's working well. I always like to share the performance of a campaign so that, like, if this thing says like 6%, I'm like, here's how to do it. It's like, well, that's a stupid idea. So I'm not trying to brag. I just want to say, like, this is viable, and here's the reason why. And it's been running for a while too. I think custom glove campaign started. Geez, when did we start this? Yeah, May of 2020. So it's not something that just like popped up and had a flash in the pan. Like, this is something that, of the $11,000 spent, there's been $44,000 in value. So 400 ROAS like all day long. It's fantastic. But here's how this works. For customizable products, what we had to do was use the standard product first. And that means the item that is chosen as the GTIN item, because we knew whatever product was created of that product would not have a GTIN. Custom gloves, as an example, I'll share with you how this cannot have a GTIN at all. Is when you go to this product page, here is your quote unquote customizable product. This is the one that has the GTIN. And the GTIN starts here with these 3 products, the Pro, Elite, and Select. And you could just say, hey, I have one product, great. And let's just say it's the Pro series. This is your GTIN product. When you click customize glove, it brings you to a builder. The builder, you can build everything. And you can see how it's impossible to have a GTIN for everything, because I can select the glove type, the first base, the size, and then I select like the colors and the personalizations, all that other stuff. All that stuff afterwards, for me personally, like, and according to Google, we just don't care, because this product right here is the one that's going to have the item ID. Now GTI, for whatever reason, in this screen here, side note, it's in there. I just don't know why it's not showing up here. It's showing up inside GMC. But this is the product that does have.
Sorry, John, pause there, because I think this is going to be important for other people.
Yeah.
If they don't see GTIN inside of the Google Ads dashboard, but they do see it inside of Google Merchant Center, then we're all in good shape.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. There's a lot of small little nuance things for whatever reason that don't show up in here. We do have a GTIN here. This was tested a year ago by saying we need GTINs because that's the only way it's going to work, and that's the way to work. I don't know why it's not showing up here. Again, also side note, the person that owns this company is a very big tinkerer, so a lot of micro changes happen constantly. So it could be that there's just a recent change lately, but the GTIN and the product item ID starts here. And then that's the product that is then used in order to create the sale. I think this is really important to know because I don't know if everyone knows this, that inside of Google Ads, the item that was clicked is not the item. I'll show you the campaign here. So let's just do. We had to pause this campaign just because we're having getting close to ad spend. But here's what's important to note here. This product inside of Smart Shopping, when clicked, actually, I'll do this. I'll give you just a really good example. This is the masterclass version of this explanation. We're going to go to. I'm going to open up Google Analytics. And this is the reason why customizable products works this way as well. This is exactly the reason. So this will be something that's going to be great for everyone to see a visual of this. Okay. So company called. And we have our Smart Shopping campaign here. Last 30 days, 377 ROAS, good. Spent 7,600, made 28 grand in the last 30 days. So it's pretty good campaign. Now inside of the Smart Shopping campaign, you look at the products. So you see this product here. It has 3,500 clicks, 154 conversions, and $13,000 in value. And you say, okay, well, that's cool. So let's look at this in a vacuum. So $93.99, $93.99, perfect, times 154 conversions, awesome, times 154 conversions. Should be $14,400, right? No, 13,746. Why do these numbers differ so much? Let's look at the next item. 52.99 times 40 equals $2,100. Awesome, no, $2,900. That's odd. We know cart value means that someone could have purchased this item and then added something else to cart, or they might have looked at, if they clicked on this item and then, not even bought this item, they might have added something else to cart. Doesn't matter. If they ever clicked on this ad and bought anything, it will show up on this line here. So why this is important is Google attributes the sale of anything on your website back to the original ad, not product, but ad, because these are ads that brought the user to the site. So if you have a GTIN product, like a custom personalization product that someone, when they click on it, they go ahead and buy a different version of that, Google just simply reattaches it back to the product that brought them there. So you can create anything, but the product that they clicked on resulted in a purchase of anything, like a really highly customizable version of that product, is still going to attribute back to the GTIN, back to the product here that was originally clicked on. I'll show you how this is found, because this is insane. When you look at the campaign overall, the way to identify this is you want to go into columns, modify columns, look at campaign ID. Campaign ID here, we have to remember this number. Campaign ID, did that not save? Sorry, hold on. I should have. Campaign ID, yeah. Okay, there it is. I'm just going to bring that there. Okay, perfect. Campaign ID. Campaign ID here is ending in 1140. So we know 1140. In analytics, we got to look at the same date range. So May 4th to June 2nd. Let's go into, and I'll do the date range here in a moment. But we have to go into conversions, e-commerce, product performance. And then Then we get to update the same date range. One moment. There we are. So now we have our products here. Let's do the same date range, May 4th to June 2nd. May 4th to June 2nd, perfect. Then we're going to open up a secondary dimension.
Dude, a second knows we're teaching a class.
Cool. Type in campaign here in the secondary dimension. You can Google Ads campaign ID 1140. Remember, 1140 was our smart shopping campaign. So when we look inside of 1140 and we say, awesome. Now let's look at the products. We sold 154 of the amethyst purple, turquoise blue. So we have to find amethyst purple, turquoise blue.
Row 9.
Yep. Thank you. So amethyst purple, turquoise blue. 1140 sold 10. So there's 10 items here that sold. Google said it sold 154. 144 purchases that clicked on that item did not buy that product. Only 10 people of the 154 purchases, only 10 people that clicked on that item bought that product. So what's interesting about this is, can you have GTIN tied to performance? Yes, but it may not be the product that sells. It just means that that GTIN brings the most value. This is really important because if you think that that product that's sitting on your shelf in your warehouse and you look over and stare at it and say, man, that thing has never moved, that could be this product here. It's never moved because people don't buy that, but it's the most popular, it's the coolest looking, it's got the best price and brings the most traffic that buys everything else on your site. So be very mindful of the products that actually sell versus the products that bring the most value. That's why you can have a product with a GTIN, that like a custom glove or like a personalization, a mug, whatever it is, that people are like, that's really cool. And they click on it and then they go buy a customized version of that product, which doesn't physically exist because you're not going to have physically every customization ever because it's impossible. But they buy something else. The value goes back to the product that was clicked on that initially brought the sale. So that's how you can identify, well, I don't get it, John. It says I sold 154 of this product, but I've only sold 10 of them. That's the reason why you'll see that discrepancy there between what Google says and what Google Analytics shows, because those products were not actually sold. I want to pause there because, again, this is masterclass. I want to make sure that there's any questions, any confusion about that, just so I can kind of help have a full understanding of this.
Jared.
Oh, so the one, John, so the 154 and then the 10. So then I guess the remaining 144 is kind of dispersed among other items in that list then?
Correct.
Okay.
And Google Analytics will show you what those products are. Sometimes you'll see Google Analytics will say, hey, the campaign of 1140 sold 2 of these items. But in Google Shopping, it says it sold 0 because they clicked on the one product and bought the other one. Analytics will show you what actually sold. Google Ads will tell you what ads click sold anything.
Okay.
John,
Yep.
Can I be a jerk for just a fraction of a second?
Absolutely not. Any other questions?
How many other agencies do you think know this?
No, probably none.
None, right?
It's funny. Well, the problem too is that agencies avoid smart shopping because they're easy. You can fire your agency quickly. Once smart shopping is up and running, you're talking about feed optimizations. You're talking about any suspension or just, it's almost like having an attorney. Like, I'm not going to get a DUI today, but I have a attorney on retainer because if I do, I need to call them. That's how sometimes interactions between agencies and clients work. But agencies don't push smart shopping because clients still measure their worth off of, well, how much hours did you work today? Or how many buttons did you click today? And that's just not how you measure performance of an agency. But agencies don't push smart shopping, so they haven't even dove really deep into the realm of all things smart shopping. You here doing it on your own and having us kind of helping you through is a really great scenario, because no one here is going to call me up and say, John, what'd you do today in my campaign? I'd be like, I pressed 2 buttons, but you're having 800 ROAS, so agencies don't push this. And so agencies don't know this. They haven't really experienced or dove deep into this. So agencies will still sometimes say, yeah, go ahead and split your smart shopping campaigns. Here's a reason why that's a bad idea in this scenario. Splitting smart shopping campaigns, a lot of reasons why there's a good idea. Also, equal amount of reasons why this is a really bad idea. And I'll share this with you here. Imagine I split this smart shopping campaign into my best performing and my least performing. what's my best performing? Well, these 4 items here. If I split these into its own smart shopping campaign, and I leave all of my other products into another smart shopping campaign, what ends up happening is when someone clicks on this product here, and we know that a very high rate, 90-ish% of people, probably higher than that. I'm bad at math and I do Google Ads, so go figure. More than probably 90% of the people that click on this product look at a different product. Well, if they look at a different product, the other campaign that has that product in there is not going to say, oh, start to dynamic remarket. The original campaign that earned that click is going to try to dynamically remarket to the end user. But if the product that they look at is excluded, they can't dynamically remarket the new product that they were interested in because that's been excluded from the campaign. So what the campaign tries to do is remarket the original product that brought them there that they are no longer interested in, and saying, hey, would you still like this product? Now, and that equals now both campaigns starting to go down. The original click, they're no longer interested. That's what we're trying to remarket to. The product that they were interested in, the other campaign is not remarketing to them. So you have both campaigns starting to lower performance. So that's when it's a bad idea, is when you have a lot of people clicking on a product, looking at a different product, that other product's not going to be remarketed to them. Now, when it is a good idea, is I'll share with you a good idea here. This is, I think it starts with an M. Yeah, this one. This one's a client that we do some consulting with. Here's what's really interesting. If you look at this company's smart shopping campaign by performance. This is a fairly new company. It's only about 3 months old, about 2 months old. So they just broached the 350% return on ad spend, which has been pretty cool. But when you look at these products here, you can look at these products, $99, one purchase, 99, good. 179, one purchase, 179, good. 119, one purchase, 119, good. 129, again, 129, 59, 59, 95, 90, or 99, 99, 149. These look like, and you can confirm this with analytics, when people click on that product, they buy that product. When people click on that product, they buy that product. This now means that there's very low amount of cross product performance. When they click on ad A, they buy product A. They don't click on ad A and buy product B. When this scenario takes place, and it's repeatable and it's long-term repeatable, at least 3 or 4 months of this same performance, that's when it's safe to split a smart shopping campaign. Because we know there's not going to be cross-product pollination, essentially. They're not going to be looking at product A, or clicking on product A, clicking on product A, then looking at product B, and product B is not remarketed to it. This is a very clean scenario. And I think it's almost, every single one, 139, 139, 99, 99. This one here, this was the first one, 69 and 139. That's the first one that I see that they clicked on this and bought either this and something else or just something else. But what's nice about this is if you say, yeah, I really need to get these products, I need to get some movement on these products. Well, you may not ever see movement on this product, even at scale, until you maxed out the products that do sell, because they're just going to still suck up all the impressions and clicks and budget. That's just going to be, you can see that the impressions and clicks are high when there's sales. When there's no sales, there's nothing. Google chooses the top 20% or 10% of the winners. But if you wanted to say, I need to force ad spend of these, then stick them into another campaign, because you know there's not going to be a lot of cross-pollination there. Any questions there?
We've got some questions in chat when you do attend to.
Cool.
From Shauna, what barcode app do you recommend for Shopify? Do we have one we know we like?
Well, we did the instantupccodes.com. I like that one. But
Where we go to get our GTIN codes.
Yeah, is that the question?
Yeah, is that what you're asking, Shauna? If you're asking for like actual Shopify checkout stuff, I don't think we would know that. But if somebody else has a preference, please drop it in the chat.
Yeah.
Daryl says, so would I need to generate barcodes for products now, even though I use third-party vendors to create my products?
Ask your third-party vendors if they have a list of GTINs or barcodes. If they do not, that's where it's a little bit of gray area. You're essentially creating the barcode for their product. I'm a person with high morality, so I would say if you did buy that GTIN, you just send it over to the manufacturer, say, hey, I bought a GTIN for this product, here it is. Because of,
I'm not that person. I'm going to say, hey, I own this now.
Right.
This is mine.
for me, like, I mean, the scalability is like, yes, 6 months in, I'm doing really good. And then I get sued. Like, there goes everything. Like, you know, you always have to think about how much
Yeah.
time, effort, energy, and money and investment are you putting into this thing for it to possibly get lawsuited away from you later on because big, you know, ivory tower company threw $1 million lawsuit at you that you can't afford to fight. So just, you know, be mindful of all scenarios.
Well, to the point of enlightened self-interest, if you give the barcode back to the manufacturer, you, at least for the next 18 months, you can be pretty sure there's only 30 people in this class, y'all. And there's nobody else in the world that knows what we know right now. I hope that didn't sound arrogant, but I'm telling you, I've seen that because I know everybody in the space. So we've got 18 months of knowing what nobody else knows. So even if they have the barcode, nobody's going to be doing what you're doing. You're just going to be helping them equip you with data that you now get to use with this fancy new tool that only you know how to use.
Yeah.
Osama says dropship manufacturers are all in China. Did the Chinese manufacturers produce GTINs in your experience? Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, well, not all of them. They are global though. So the GTINs mean regardless of where you're at, it's global. So if you had a really high quality Chinese manufacturer, you know, they could be creating barcodes. Unfortunately, I don't know them all and I don't know their practices, but don't be surprised if you do run into maybe, you know, 3/10 of them having a barcode. Good rule of thumb there is when you start to drop ship from a vendor, or even if you're buying their inventory, ask, is there a GTIN? Are you willing to purchase one? Or am I allowed to purchase my own? And just hopefully, in my opinion, having a good relationship with a vendor is going to be just more beneficial to you long term. So if you can develop a good relationship with a good vendor, that A is just going to give you more longevity because it's a good vendor and a good relationship, but B, it should be easier to understand who and what and where the GTIs are created and who owns them.
You're such a good person, John. Michael Johnson, would you recommend getting GTINs for digital products we make and no one else will ever be selling?
Well, it depends. I don't always recommend GTINs. If you said, hey, my digital product looks great, I don't really suspect me making a different title and different description. I might supplement it with some additional keywords and phrases, but I don't really need to. And my digital products change so often that a new version of that might be coming out. I need to update that product. Digital products are not physical goods that, you know, a couch sitting in a warehouse isn't going to just turn into a chair. You know, it's a couch forever. A digital product might turn into a new version, a different version, new compatibility, new features that you might want to change what the UPC is of that for your own inventory because it's a different product. So GTINs, when you buy them and 6 months become more valuable, and then 3 months now you sunset that product, is it really worth it? I don't know. It just depends on how cyclical your digital products are.
Yeah, Michael's got 1,500 SKUs too, so it's a big decision,
right?
Strategic decision to make.
Yeah, and so Michael, that's what I'm saying is I've shown you 30 grand in spend and 400 ROAS without GTIN, and we've been doing that for almost 2 years now. It's not going to limit it. You just have to think about your own situation. I hope that's taken really, really well for everyone. I don't have the golden rule for everyone. What works for, you know, Robin may not work for Daryl. You know, there's going to be reasons to why. So that's why we're here. Ask as many questions as you possibly can. I will give you the guidance into when to make and how to make those decisions. But Michael, I'm not sure if you were saying like, hey, you know what, I might need to update my SKU and I might need to call it a GTI and something different. Think about this. And Michael, are you able to unmute, or is it something that I can still chat with you? I just want to see if it might be a little bit faster for you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Michael.
Yeah, what's up?
Got a quick question for you. In the product, your digital product, if you were to update that product, is the same exact audience still relevant from a year ago?
Yeah, and the digital products are mostly evergreen. They're not going to be like not popular a few years down the road.
Okay, so if that one GTIN or that one SKU between 1 and 4 years, the same exact audience can benefit from it. Is that right?
Yeah, we may add different, like we update it in terms of adding additional content to the PDF, but it's essentially to the same market, same audience.
Okay, and and it was an important distinction for me to clarify, just because GTIN is going to attach itself to an audience. So if you say, hey, this product kind of changed into something else and it serves a different want and need, and the old want and need is not really that relevant. Like if you come up and you say, hey, there's a new feature and a new benefit to this product, and the people still looking for the old feature and benefit, that's who Google's going to go after because that GTI is attached to it.
Gotcha.
So yeah, just that inbound desire. If you say, hey, I have a new add-on to this because people are going to want to start to look for this, and you still stick the same GTIN on there, Google's going to say, yeah, but it worked really well with last year's wants and needs, so we're just going to pump more ad spend into them. So that's how you think about it. Is the GTIN attaches to a group of people. If that group of people are evergreen, then yeah, then I would say, yeah, you might benefit from a GTIN, because then you can play with your titles and descriptions year over year and do feed optimizations. That's going to get better and better. But if that want and need changes, and you might have a new group of people, a new generation of people, or a new version of people that are looking for something different than the original group, Google's not just going to quickly, they'll pivot, but not quickly. But they won't quickly pivot to the new group of people. It's going to catalog that old group and try to scale the old group.
Okay, and that's I haven't spent any time like optimizing my feed or like the product names and descriptions and all that. So I'm assuming I'll be making those changes down the road on a continuous kind of basis.
Yeah, and it's very similar to keyword strategy. So, if your keyword strategy, if you're running a search campaign alongside of a shopping campaign, and your search campaign has a really good performance on a specific keyword, that's a really good lead indicator that should be part of your descriptions and titles, if possible, or some what they call latent semantic indexed version of that, which is a fancy way for Google to say synonym.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be like a lead indicator. And then with a feed management tool, you can use DSA and a search campaign to influence the feed optimizations, because Google's the same engine. It's using the same engine. So to not have like your keyword that's performing in your title, not saying you don't, I'm just saying general rule of thumb is to not have the best performing keyword, at least not featured in the title, might be a mistake.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. Cool. Does that help your question?
Yep.
Awesome.
Don's dropping some value here, talking about the European version of apparently GS1 bought the European version of GTIN, so now it's all in the GS1 family, which is cool.
Interesting.
Wanda's asking, do we need GTINs for handmade products?
Depends. Are you planning on making those handmade products the same for next 2 years? If so, yeah. Yeah, I
If
would.
it's a line of products, then the answer is yes. But if they're one of a kind, then the answer is no. GTIN is not going to be applicable. But then smart shopping is not applicable.
That's what I mean. Is like we don't really recommend smart shopping for one-offs, because Google needs to find consistency and repeatability. I'll give you a really great example in the same product. Here's a good way to show why singular products or products with low volume don't work very well. You'll notice here that in the last 30 days, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 13 products here that have impressions and clicks. The other, let's just call it 698 products do not at any sort of high level. So very, very small amount of products are selling. A, because we're in the beginning stages of this campaign. But B, because when Google sees something selling, they will throw just all of the ad spend to it. And what this means is that if you have 13 products that are really selling and starting to sell more, and all of a sudden, 3 products go out of stock, you've just taken, essentially, 25%, 30% of your best-selling items just right off the shelf. Your campaign's not just going to have better performance because 3 of your best performing items just left. So Google needs repeatability. It tries to go for repeatability. That's why you have a lot of impressions and a lot of clicks by the product, because it says, hey, we're able to sell this one. If we give it more clicks, like you see here, we sold 1. These all have under 100 clicks. What if we gave it more impressions, more clicks? Well, when we go over 100, we get 2 sales. What if we gave it $100 and we got 200 clicks? Would we get 3 sales at 600 ROAS, at 950 ROAS? Yes, then it starts to repeat that, and it will spend $20,000 per month on one product potentially. So just by adding more ad spend doesn't mean everything else is going to get tested. Once it finds good repeatability, it just sucks up all the ad spend, and now you win because you're making more money. You're selling just more quote unquote products, even though it's the same product. But if that product goes out of stock, imagine here. I'll give you a really extreme example, and this is why GTINs are important for scalability and for repeatability and making sure that one-off products aren't your main focus. This is that company. If I look back to March here, and if I look at our smart shopping campaign, the smart shopping campaign, looking at the products, and I'm sorting by the conversions. Imagine right here, this is $24,000 on these 2 products, and 24,000 out of, excuse me, let me just get a total, 63,000. So essentially, 1/3 of my spend of $63,000 has been spent on 2 products, and those 2 products sold, what is that, 300-ish, 300 products. Now, if all of a sudden these 2 items go out of stock, I'm in trouble, because my spend and my sales and my conversion value and my good ROAS from these products are all of a sudden just gone. And Google's going to say, wait, that didn't work. Stick that 20 grand into that one. Well, that only has $6,000 in spend. When 6 goes to 26,000, do I have less performance? Yep. Overall campaign starts to crash. Do I have better performance? Overall campaign continues on. It's a gamble. So hopefully that gives you good visual as to, like, when 2 products work and you're like, yeah, but I'm increasing my ad spend. Why aren't the other products getting shown? Because that one product could take up 20 grand a month if there's volume there, if there's sales there. So one-off products are not necessarily the best, because if you have 5 of them and 3 of them go away, there goes 66 to 70% of your campaign.
Mike and Shauna have the same question. Where do we buy and apply the GTIN?
Where do you buy and apply?
Yep.
So I like to, again, I'm not a shop owner. I've consulted with shop owners and they've had good success with this. And we were actually consulted to buy it from there too. We just had good success. Instant UPC codes. Oh,
didn't somebody push back on that though? Who was it? It was a smart guy.
Yeah, there was a person in the 3X Shopify that said, hey, if you buy, you can buy from places, but it doesn't mean that they're not eventually going to recycle those codes.
Oh yeah.
There's been no evidence that Instant UPC codes has ever done that. And I can
it kind of seemed a little bit like a what is it, mudslinging job.
Yeah, well, it was
somebody against them.
Yeah, and well, it wasn't even against Instant UPC codes. It was just saying like, hey, I bought my UPC codes from an online retailer, and then it turns out that someone else already had those, but it wasn't specifically about them. Aaron, obviously, who's a friend and consultant of ours, he's used it for all of his Amazon clients, even his own, and he was selling $5 million annually on Amazon for new products, all from those UPC codes. So, I mean, that's good enough for me.
I agree. Well, and Aaron made a really major exit to a really major company. So
yeah, he sold to a very, very large Fortune 100 company. So yeah.
I'm at 956 now, Don. You can get them through gs1.org. Yeah, that's another one too. Incidentally, is gs1.org.
Yeah, that was the one that we heard. That I think was like, it was a little bit more expensive. Like I think it's 10 times expensive as upccodes.com, but they're the global authority. So you're paying for that peace of mind.
I'll field some questions while you're gone. Michael's saying, who's the global authority again? gs1.org, I think, is considered the GTIN global authority. It's interesting. gs1.org is a nonprofit organization. And that doesn't mean anything, y'all. That doesn't, I think, speak to their credibility to a much greater degree, but they are the ones that I think get more in the way of, pats on the back. They're also just a little bit harder to deal with, which is why we recommend the Instant UPC codes. Instant UPC to me is kind of like the MBD Express. Like you're dealing with a private entity, but they've made things a little bit easier, so you pay a little bit more, but they tend to be a little bit faster. I hope that's helpful. Wanda's saying Shopify's default app is free and does not have any advanced features. And adding the GTIN code in Shopify is relatively easy too. You can do it as a bulk upload if you want to, or you can do it on an individual product basis. Niha's saying GS1 is the source and all the others are resellers. That could be true. I didn't know that. I always thought it was kind of like star mapping, like when you pay somebody to name a star after you, and who's to say there's another organization that doesn't just name the same star after somebody else. I think that the codes end up being robust enough though that the risk hopefully is